And it was not long before he had located one. Mark only had to pass his hand over the lock and it opened, the alarm rendered useless. Inside, he changed into warmer clothing. He rejected the more American-style rugged checked shirts in favor of a t-shirt and a fleecy garment. Trail boots and waterproofs came off the racks. A rucksack was found in which he put a torch, batteries, some camping gear, supplies of dried easy cook food, and the General's gun. All the while he munched some high-calorie snacks. He left the shop but ensured no one saw him and he used his power to re-lock the door. Along the street was an autoteller. He stretched out his power to disable its camera and overrode its computer system to enable him to borrow a couple of €100. You never knew, he thought, he might need some cash for a meal or a room, and he would pay it back as soon as he could. He didn't like stealing, but needs must. Down a side street he found a fast Honda motorcycle, a 200cc. Not too powerful to be a monster to control, but not too feeble to lack speed. The fact that he had never actually been on a motorbike before did not cause him concern. He had ridden a friend's trail bike and another friend's quad on several occasions and the principles had to be much the same, he reasoned. A pass of the hand and the central locking opened right up. A hand on the steering column and the ignition fired, and a little tug was all that was needed to overcome the steering lock. Another theft, and another property owner he would one day have to make it up to. Through Kilsyth and up the narrow road that leads past Berry Hill and Denny Muir, over Cairn Bridge and a stop at the old inn there. As he sauntered through the inn door, he could have passed for a walker just coming off the hills. The fact that his clothes were brand new and unstained was not noticed. He looked old enough just to order a beer, but contented himself with bottled water. He felt he had time, so he ordered a toasted sandwich and ate it in silence, in the open lounge area, from which he heard raucous laughter issuing now and then from the bar. Apart from the waitress who brought his drink and toasted sandwich, nobody paid him any attention. After he had eaten, he sat back to enjoy what pleasure he could glean from the feeling of being, for the moment at least, warm, safe and full, and in the proximity of people who seemed to be enjoying normal lives. In the foyer Mark found a public net phone. He stood with his back to the wall as he picked up the receiver. He could watch the entrance and see what was happening in the bar at the same time. Holding the receiver lightly in his hand he channeled his thoughts. Circuits opened and closed, electrons moved, through miles of fiber optic and then through the air, currents flowed. In Logan's former flat, in the spare room, in Carrie's pocket the mobile phone buzzed softly. Although they could not speak, each saw the excitement leap into the other's faces as Jeanette and Carrie's eyes met. Both knew it had to be Mark. But, as the mobile was still wedged virtually inaccessibly in Carrie's jeans pocket, there was nothing they could do. They could not use the phone to communicate. And Mark knew there was nothing they could do, but that did not worry him. The call had been enough. It was intended to let them know he was on the way. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Keeping on the single-track road that passed beside Loch Coulter Reservoir. Mark drove the bike carefully, light on full beam for most of the way. It was 11:30 and the night sky, though still not fully dark, was becoming overcast. Through plantations of conifers, and round nasty little bends, the road led him until he had to circle round the Palmes Castle estate and enter Cambusbarron. This once small settlement had grown in recent years, spreading up the hillside to its south. Touch was only a couple of kilometers further on, and Stirling a few kilometers in the other direction. He half expected further trouble from the agents of the League, but none came. The well-lit main street was quiet this Monday night. He drove the motorbike slowly, with the utmost caution into Stirling from the western approach and doing no more than 20 kilometers an hour, motored through the brightly lit streets, scanning, reaching out and searching with his new power. Carrie and his mother were close, very close. He turned up Prince's Street, a narrow steep road that led eventually to the Castle's heights, and knew he was closer than ever. But as the bike puttered to a stop at the top of the street, a flicker of concern crossed his face. A police car, unmarked but wearing its blue flashing light, cruised to a stop in the street beside a darkened tenement doorway. Mark sat back in a more relaxed posture on the motorbike's imitation leather seat. A single figure sat in the police car and made no effort to get out. It seemed to be waiting. Mark smiled to himself. What was about to happen was insanely dangerous, he well knew. A more sensible approach would be to alert the army, alert Allied command, and let them deal with what was in that flat. For Mark knew what was awaiting him up those tenement stairs. He knew the danger he, Carrie and his mother and, indeed, all of Scotland were now in. But he could deal with it. Of that he was certain. There was not a scrap of doubt in his mind now. He got off the bike and walked in a relaxed manner over to the police car. The electric window lowered as he approached. "Hello, Mark. I figured you'd happen along. Are you all right, Mr. Roberts? Why the blue light on an otherwise unmarked car, in case we get into a hot pursuit situation, you know the kind of thing?" Mark nodded. "Okay. You know about General Miller, yes. How did you escape? I'll tell you later. I actually figured I'd see you here, I had to come, I know. I called Carrie after she switched on her mobile phone. I reckoned that should give your police tracking machines enough of a signal to locate her. Well, it worked. Clever boy. We can locate any mobile phone as long as it's switched on, but not always accurately. Your call helped us out, you alone?" asked Mark. "I was not sure how much of an audience you wanted, so, yes. I came alone. Do we need any backup?" Mark grinned. A hand passed through his hair. "No, I don't suppose we do, really. There is just one little problem, I think I can guess. I was at Allied Command half an hour ago. Our satellites have sweeping the area, scanning constantly for anything out of the ordinary in the area of the Soros ship. Half an hour ago we picked up a radiation trace. It's the kind left behind when nasty stuff like uranium or plutonium is transported. Tell me I am wrong. Mark. Tell me there's not a something horrific about to explode up there. I wish I could. I really wish I could, then if it's some booby trap left by the League. I should call in the bomb disposal boys, normally that would be fine idea. But now, I really don't think we have the time. I kinda sense the bomb up there it's in the top flat, by the way, that room there, and it has a timer going." "A timer, yep, set for, about 15 minutes from now." Roberts felt his insides turn to water. "Oh, that's not so good, is it?" He thought of Jackie and little Sally. The thought that he was never going to see them again almost overwhelmed him. "We'd better get going," said Mark, shouldering the rucksack he had brought with him. Although he felt like running away, starting up the car and getting the hell away from there as fast as it could carry him. Roberts left the car, which locked itself up automatically, and followed Mark on barely stable legs up the dark stairwell of the tenement. He wished he could have just 5 more minutes to say decent goodbyes. Their footsteps echoed on the stone landings they passed. Madge Hartley heard them and peered from the fisheye security lens sunk in solid wooden door, but she was too late. The man and the boy had passed already to the top floor landing. Mark handed Roberts his rucksack. "Just stay here and hold that for me, will you, please? I can't believe how polite you are given the fact that we may all be blown to kingdom come any minute now." Mark smiled. "This doesn't faze you at all. Does it? Why the hell does this not faze you? Time for some more magic," Mark said, turning away, and in a fluid movement stepped through the wall. Roberts dropped the rucksack and felt his knees go even weaker. He leaned against the wall behind him, his legs were threatening not to support him. Mark stepped in. The sensation of passing through solid matter was strange but not unpleasant, but his nerve endings seemed to jangle briefly. It was like being scrubbed all over. Quickly, with a hard, dry sponge. The wall behind had left no trace of his passage. He had imagined an electromagnetic field like a body-tight envelope surrounding him completely, shielding his body, and this field could part the molecules it came into contact with. He likened the experience to wading through thigh-deep water, as water would. The paintwork, the plaster, the bricks and mortar and the interior wallpaper parted in front of Mark and closed up again behind. He quickly surveyed the room. He noted the wires, the electromagnet, the wardrobe door. The digital computer inside was booby-trapped too, he sensed, so that if he cut the wires, or negated the magnet, or simply stopped the timer, the primer would fire anyway. With his mind he reached into the digital control. For an instant his courage almost failed him. Only a minute remained. Good God, he thought. What if I am wrong about this? No, that cannot be. I walk through walls. I can bend the world to my will. I can do this too. I can do magic. He concentrated his life to the device. With his mind he explored its surfaces, every corner, every groove. Every minute intricacy. The display counted down inexorably. The explosive will hurl the primer into the plutonium. The unstable particles of the plutonium will burst apart, energy will be released, the same kind of energy that fires the sun itself. The temperature will exceed 1,000,000 degrees. Only seconds remained. I can do this. He focused his mind around the bomb. Not just imagining it but literally seeing it with the utmost clarity, and with his mind he wrapped the plutonium in a subatomic shroud, a cover of particles so strange that they defied logical analysis. He imagined it. This magical suffocating blanket, and because these particles were what atoms themselves were made of, he could make this enveloping shroud around the device utterly impenetrable. No atomic particles could escape this shell, so no radiation could escape. The digital display silently came to 0. 0. Mark felt the blast ignite in his mind. The sheer force of it, 1,000,000 erupting volcanoes, made his mind reel for a millisecond, then his strength took hold again instantly and snuffed the explosion and its causes out as if it were no more than a candle flame in a church. He made the material simply disappear, their particles separating off into some infinity of subatomic universes. Not a ripple of it showed or was felt in the everyday world, so when Mark opened his eyes, he saw the untidy little room with the remains of the booby trap devices. Now useless, but all continuing to exist. For a moment he was reminded of General Miller's dead face. The world still existed. He was still alive. He let out a long breath, leaned a trembling arm against the dirty wall and tried not to fall over. At last, after what seemed like a long time but was in fact less than a minute, he had pulled himself together sufficiently to let Roberts in, and they quickly located Jeanette and Carrie in the adjacent room. It was the matter of moments to undo their gags and free their arms and legs from the ropes and tape that bound them. There were hugs and tears. Roberts looked on, smiling widely, still holding Mark's rucksack, hardly able to believe he was still alive. 25 Monday night. Mark gave them water and energy bars from the rucksack supplies. Mark had supposed his mother and Carrie would be hungry and thirsty. They were. They also both had headaches. After effects of the drugs they had been injected with. Mark and Director Roberts told them all that had happened, from Mark's rescue in the Glen to the killing of General Miller. "I could DNT save him," said Mark quietly. "What do you mean?" asked Roberts. "If I had known then what this power can do. I could have saved him. I wish to God I could have. But I guess I was too shaken up by what had happened back at the road. You see, one of the men had a rocket launcher or something and he was about to fire it right at us. I kind of reached out with my mind and the next thing I knew it blew right up. It blew him to pieces. I could DNT believe it. Well, it's no wonder you were shaken up. It's a miracle you re not a gibbering wreck," said Jeanette. Carrie, listening intently, took his hand in hers. They hugged. Robert saw tears appear in Mark's eyes. But when the other man, Henderson, came, Mark went on, rubbing his eyes. "The one from this morning in the Glen. I could have made his gun misfire, or deflected the bullets or something. If only I had known then what I could do now. The General NEEDNT have died. Their DOESNT seem to be much limit to what I can do, but I just didn't know about all that." "Not then, you re not responsible for that." "Mark," said Roberts, "absolutely not." Agreed Carrie. "What happened after that? How did you get away?" asked Jeanette. "That's the strangest part, as if it could get any stranger," remarked Carrie. Mark smiled and shrugged. "It was as if they had never been after me at all. The guy Henderson just walked away, saying something about following orders. Oh, Mr. Roberts, I took the General's gun. I suppose you'd better take it. It's in the rucksack, okay. Mark. No problem, what did you do then?" asked Carrie. "I stumbled around for a bit. I think, then the next thing I remember is coming across an old barn. Choppers were up looking for traces of you. If you were concealed in a barn, that explains why you weren't picked up," said Roberts. "In the barn I passed out. I guess. Then the dreams started again. Mum, they were terrible. I saw." Haltingly, with much effort, he related what he now knew of his father's motives and actions. He unconsciously touched a finger to his birthmark as he told his horrified listeners about the syringe. "My God," whispered Jeanette, "I never knew. I never knew. Mark reached over to take her hand and said, Mum, don't blame him. You mustn't blame Dad. He didn't start any of this. In his way, he was trying to finish it. And what he did, I think he was right, but he could have killed you. Or caused brain damage, I know. And he knew. He agonized over it. Mum, it tore him apart. But he was right. He was right. That's what has made you what? Mark asked Carrie, what are you? Superman, Mark grinned. I don't know about that. Well, is there anything you can do? Carrie asked. Mark considered the question. I really don't know all what I can do, but I don't have X-ray vision. Anything else, I can lick my elbow. Very funny. I don't think. Be serious. She hit him with a cushion from the sofa. I hardly know where to begin to describe what I feel I can do. Mark replied simply. I just stopped an atomic bomb from going off. I mean, what the hell else can I do? I just don't know. Carrie, well, said Roberts, there are some things to be done. First of all, if you'll excuse me. I'll call my wife. She may be worried after the way I left this evening. Then I'll call in and find out how your parents are. Carrie, he went into the little lobby to make his calls. The three fell silent for a long moment. Jeanette frowned. What I still don't understand is where your dreams or visions or whatever they are actually come from. You've seen things you didn't possibly have know anything about. Where do they come from? Mark. Do you know yet? Mark nodded slowly. I think I do. They come from the Soros. The aliens are sending me these dreams. How? Why? Asked Carrie. How? Through that organic whatever it is at the base of my brain. Why? I don't know that yet. But I aim to find out. He let the implications of this intention sink in. But before either could ask any more questions, Roberts came back in. He held out his mobile to Carrie. It's your mother. I've told her a little about what's happened and that you're safe. She's at your father's bedside in Sterling Royal. He's okay, he'll be fine. Here, talk to her yourself. Carrie's face had passed from concern to relief and she took the phone from Robert's outstretched hand. Her mother did most of the talking at first. Carrie nodding now and again. Then she began her tale, which was not long in the telling. When she had finished the call, she turned to the others, handing the director back his phone. I should go to them. She said. I'll arrange that. Said Roberts, I have to call in backup now. Sis has to go over this place with a fine-tooth comb. There's an interface there that might come in very useful, and those tools and workbenches by the wall have not just been used for hammering in nails. He turned to Mark and Jeanette. But what am I going to do with you? Don't you have to take us in for questioning? Asked Jeanette. Well, yes, but in fact we've already covered a lot of the ground. And I think you've been through enough for one day. Do you have? Roberts hesitated. Is there any place you can go to? Any relatives in the area? I mean, I can put you into protective custody if you want, but Jeanette raised her brows in surprise as it hit her again, with some force, that she and Mark had no home to go to. I don't well, no, there's no one. Well, you leave everything to me. Said Roberts reassuringly. I'll see to it that you get a place of our own as soon as possible, and for the time being I'll see if there's a safe house available for you in this area. He stepped into the lobby to make the arrangements over the phone. Again a silence fell between them, yet it united instead of separating. They could hear Robert's voice from the lobby. At last Mark asked, have you yourselves figured out what the next move is? What my next move has to be? Jeanette and Carrie exchanged a glance and both nodded at the same time. I have a bad feeling that you're going to the museum, said Carrie. You're going back on board their ship? Mark nodded. There's something I have to see. And I have to speak to the one with the striped arm, their so-called leader. That ship is like a magnet to me now, pulling me to it. I have to go back. But it's not controlling me, at least. I don't think it is. I have to go back because that is where the truth is, and that's what I have to find out. What happened today? Those people hunting us in the Glen. General Miller and the rest, I think that's all part of their plan. Like I said before, they replaying games with us, very cunning games. I think all that was to get my attention, to get me good and mad, to provoke me into doing something, to use my power. I saw all that when I was asleep, or unconscious, or in shock, or whatever it was. And they tested me tonight. That bomb was a test, and you've passed. Asked Carrie. Yep. I reckon so, Chris' sake. Mark, cried Carrie, you make it sound like you sat a national vocational quali in defusing nuclear bombs. What happens now? Do you go on next week to get a diploma? Mark smiled weakly. Well, maybe so. But you see, it seems to me now that there must be something special about humans, something that only we can do. And the Soros know this. I don't know what this thing is, but it has something to do with these powers of mine. Passing through walls, bending matter, all this magic for want of a better word, somehow this is something that the Soros want, or need, to use. They can do it themselves. Their implants only work on human brains. And I somehow know that they've carried out a great many implants. The Human Freedom League, for example, have really been governed by the Soros. Those people are being manipulated by implants. That is pretty clear to me now. This is ghastly. Whispered Carrie. Yes. I agree. Said Mark. When are we doing this thing, this act of complete madness? Asked Jeanette. There was no mistaking the depth of fear in her question. Tomorrow, Mum. I am going tomorrow. And I need you to help me persuade Mr. Roberts to take me. Jeanette did not need a mother's instinct to know that there was no mistaking the fear in Mark's voice either. Fear shone clearly in all of their faces. 26 The Soros Number 1. Mark and Jeanette passed a restless night in a safe house, a small former farmhouse to the east of Sterling. The house was most commonly used for witness protection, and although it was comfortable enough, with its cheap IKEA furniture, neither Jeanette nor Mark could settle. Separately, they paced, they flicked through television channels, they wandered outside from time to time to look across at the steep looming slopes of the Ochil Hills, and as they looked they were aware that over to the right, not far away, the Soros craft waited in its field. They had, however, managed to snatch a few hours' sleep. Jeanette had woken up feeling better, the drug's after effects having dissipated, and Mark's sleep had been untroubled by dreams, so he had recovered a little after the trauma and exertions of the past 2 days. Roberts had stayed with them. They had reunited Carrie with her parents at Sterling Royal. Mark had dearly wished she could have stayed with him, but her place just now, he had to admit, was with her parents. Roberts then ferried them straight to the safe house. He had also arranged for the motorbike Mark had stolen to be returned to the rightful owner, and the stolen bank money and other goods would be returned or paid for in due course. Over mugs of hot chocolate and a stiff brandy for Roberts and Jeanette, Mark had outlined his plan, such as it was, for the director. He had agreed without much discussion, and gave his reasons for his acquiescence. There is something utterly remarkable about you, Mark. I don't think you truly aware of it yourself, but you are. Quite simply, probably the most important human being on the planet. But you such a nice, unassuming guy, you don't realize it. So if you say to me that you want to go to the Soros ship and you want me to drive you and not tell anyone what we doing, of course I'll do it. In any event, I am probably as keen, well, maybe that's not the right word, as determined as you are to see this through. Of course I'll do it. But why do you need me to come? Simple, said Mark. You've got a car and I can drive. Roberts smiled. Thanks, Mr. Roberts. And we'll pick Carrie up at 8:30. She insisted on it. I am afraid, and so it happened that at 9 the next morning, the morning of Tuesday, July the 3rd, Roberts' car was skirting the perimeter security fence surrounding McIntyre's field. Asterisk 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 asterisk. The vast circular ship glinted dully in the morning sunlight. It appeared completely harmless, like a rather clumsy prop left over from a long-abandoned film set decades ago. Mark, Carrie, Jeanette and Roberts got out of the car and stood at the security fence looking at the Soros ship. The world had changed the day it landed, changed irrevocably and forever. More changes had still to come. Roberts reflected, glancing at the seemingly self-assured boy beside him. This day the museum was obviously closed for business. Disappointed bus parties were being mollified by the uniformed human staff at the ticket kiosks. No, we very sorry, we not quite sure why, madam. Perhaps it's some kind of essential repair work. Certainly we will refund your money. No problem, sir. The four had spent a long time watching from a safe distance the goings-on. as well as coach parties, police cars and military vehicles were much in evidence. Behind them, in the little narrow lane that ran alongside the field, the car sat with its engine running. The heightened security was undoubtedly a result of General Miller's assassination by the League, reflected Roberts. At last Mark sighed heavily and said, "Well, no time like the present, can we not come with you?" asked Carrie. The tremble she could not control in her voice was proof that she was clearly very frightened indeed. Mark gently took her hand and put an arm tenderly round her shoulder. "No, we have to do it like we discussed earlier. I am pretty sure I can protect myself, but I am not sure I could protect you. And you know, in almost every story I've read and film I've seen, it's always the girl that trips over her high heels and gets captured by the baddies, and creates endless complications for the hero. Think about it. It'd be a disaster. I am not wearing high heels, it's better this way," continued Mark. "This way, if anything does go wrong, you can tell the story to everyone. Tell them what happened, you want to reconsider. There's absolutely no other way," asked Jeanette. "We can just go to Miller's people, no other way. What could the army do against them, the Soros?" Carrie leaned her body close to his and held him tight. "Don T go," she whispered, looking into his eyes with her direct gaze. Tears were about to flow. "Don T go. Mark. Please." Mark kissed her and returned her embrace. Then he said, "I have to. There's absolutely no other way." As they finally disengaged, Roberts said, "Look, I've still got General Miller's gun in the glove compartment. Do you want to take that with you?" Mark shook his head. "I'd be as much use with a gun as I would be driving a car. They'd probably detect it on me, anyway. I don't suppose you can travel across a galaxy and not have some idea about customs control. No, my weapon has to be up here." He tapped his head. "Whatever force enables me to go through solid walls is what I have to rely on." Jeanette nodded. Well, the muscles around her mouth began to tremble and she had trouble with the words, but she could not allow Mark to from her with a memory of negative, despairing hopelessness. So she mustered up a composure she did not truly feel now, and breathed. "Go to it, Mark. We've got faith in you. Remember that." After a final hug, Mark turned from them and faced the fence. He passed a hand through his hair, and Carrie and Jeanette both smiled, recognizing the familiar gesture. Mark raised a hand in front of him and the tungsten steel fence parted without a sound. He stepped through, still apparently calm. Inwardly, however, he felt as a high diver might feel the first time he ascends the top board. He was almost giddy with fear, and the thought, "God, let someone else do this," kept running through his mind, accompanied by, "God, don't let them see how afraid I am. Let me be strong for them." Each step he took now, and he felt he walked with knees that shook like jelly, was a triumph of reason over emotion, of willpower over terror. The air almost seemed to crackle as he moved, and Jeanette, Carrie and Roberts were conscious of the incalculable, incomprehensible power that lay within him. "Is there anything he can do?" Jeanette wondered. "You come back to us," called Carrie, but her voice came out as a squeak and it occurred to her that Mark could not have heard it. "I love you." Her voice tailed off. She didn't think he had heard her. Jeanette slipped an arm round her shoulder. Somehow Mark's legs carried him across the field to the ship. Some official, or military policeman had seen his movement and was calling out and hurrying from the main gate. He was vaguely aware that other soldiers had begun to cross to intercept, but they were too far away. A long, curving line suddenly appeared in the hull and the familiar ramp slid soundlessly down towards the ground. The soldiers began to run. "They know he is coming," said Jeanette. "This is a trap I am walking into," thought Mark. Carrie and Jeanette watched as Mark walked up the ramp and disappeared into the ship's dark interior. The soldiers were still 100 meters away and stopped in confusion. The ramp soundlessly and seamlessly closed behind him. Carrie turned her face into Jeanette's chest and burst into tears. Jeanette, feeling her own tears beginning to course down her cheeks, led her back to the car, assisted by Roberts. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Mark sensed rather than heard the door silently close behind him, and the fear that had gripped him began to loosen its hold. There could be no going back now. He took a deep breath, exhaled slowly and looked around. The reception area was much as before, but there was no feeling of nausea this time as he passed inside. The shaking in his legs subsided now too. Subtle lighting compensated for the doorway being closed, but the feeling of being totally cut off from the outside world was now virtually overwhelming. "Mark. Welcome. Sit, please." The words sounded in his head. Words, and yet not words. Not as he knew them. Soros words. Soros thoughts. Soros telepathy. There was a feeling of laughter, but Mark drew no comfort from it. The one with the striped arm was sitting at a console, much the same as the one Mark had seen in his dream at the bridge of Orky Hotel. The alien wore the same white suit, human in form since it had 2 arms, 2 legs and a head, but the swirling bulges and appendages were unlike any human spacesuit.